Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast. We are here this time to talk to you guys about all the Marvel news that dropped at D23 over the weekend in terms of Marvel Animation as well as Marvel live action. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined by Vinny Albano.
Hello.
So some of the stuff that they showed obviously came directly from Comic-Con because Comic-Con was really recent. We talked about that in an episode, me, you, and Michael, that's also on the channel if you guys want to check it out. No obvious. There was no castings for this other than we got a couple exciting casting announcements in Marvel Animation, which we can get to later. But a lot of this was kind of showcasing a lot of the projects that we knew about and finally getting trailers. And some of them went wide to everybody. Some of them did not. But I want to start with just kind of going, I guess, in order. We watched right before we started recording. We're going to start on a sour note, everybody. Agatha All Along is a show that is coming to Disney+. It is, I guess, a spinoff based on what happens at the end of WandaVision and the events of WandaVision. Catherine Hahn returns to the role. There's a bunch of other new cast members. The most exciting and the most noteworthy, obviously, is Aubrey Plaza joining the MCU, but Joe Locke from I think it's Heartbreaker, right, on Netflix. Heartstopper, one of the two.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Well, a big Netflix animated series, Joe Locke is with the star of that. He's coming to the show. Shashir Zamata, Ali An, Patty LaPone. So we get the trailer for this. It's a new trailer. And all the witches actually came out on stage and sang the song that plays in the trailer. And you were like, is this a musical? And I'm like, it's supposed to have musical elements. Yeah. So are you looking forward to the show? And what were your thoughts on what we got from it?
Yeah, me personally, I am not looking forward to Agatha. I just I don't have any hard feelings against it or anything. It's just the fact of in WandaVision, I really enjoyed WandaVision at the start and I hated the finale. I just thought it took a nosedive downward, and the introduction of Agatha being the master manipulator of WandaVision always felt very forced to me. It always felt very weird to me of oh, she was the bad guy all along. And they have a anime battle in the sky and they're shooting laser beams at each other, and I was like, okay, I didn't care for it at all. So I don't really care for her character going into this, and I think for me, even after watching the trailer, it's Marvel has all these characters, all these fan favorite characters from all the comic books, and yet they're pouring all their money into Agatha All Along. I don't know. It doesn't look terribly bad. It's just I'm not excited.
Yeah, I get it. I appreciated Agatha as a character, and I like Catherine Hahn a lot as an actress. And the character I enjoyed, so that was what it was. But I do agree. I think the finale kind of falters out, and I'm not. I do really like WandaVision. I don't love it as much as I feel like a lot of people do. Going off what you just said, I think that we're just at a point with Marvel where they can't have a lot of misses. And it's also, like you were talking about, who is this made for? But to me, it's what purpose does this show serve in the larger narrative? And I do understand that not every single thing needs to fit in the larger narrative. There's another show that we'll talk about in a little bit that I think has to do with a lot of the street level stuff that's not going to necessarily have a major impact on Secret Wars and what comes with that unless they're called to action. But I don't even know if that's definitely going to happen. So this to me just feels like it's not in my wheelhouse. It's not something that I'm necessarily looking forward to. I agree with you. I don't think it necessarily looks bad, but it's just not one that I'm really excited for. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
We did get some new footage also for Captain America Brave New World. We got the reveal of Harrison Ford as Red Hulk, which a lot of stuff leaked at D23. A lot of stuff at Comic-Con didn't. D23, I feel like every trailer got leaked, which was crazy, with the exception of Thunderbolts. Again, it was so funny on Twitter about it. But we get the reveal of Harrison Ford as Red Hulk. And now that you've seen a little bit more of what this movie is going to be, we talked a little bit about it on the Comic-Con episode. What were your thoughts on the look that we finally got a chance to see? And are you more hyped for this movie because of it, or are you still kind of in the same wavelength that you were at last time we talked?
Yeah, I think it looks good. I think it looks, it's hard to tell because it's pictures taken from an iPhone in the crowd.
Yeah.
So it's blurry and it's not crispy. So it's hard to kind of tell if that really looks like Harrison Ford. To me, it just kind of looked like Mark Ruffalo's Hulk Red.
Okay.
But I don't think it looked bad. I'm actually seeing it now, made me a little more excited for the movie.
For the overall, yeah, I'm excited. I talked about this in the Comic-Con, but the political side of the MCU is always something that I find really intriguing, and the impact that the government has. And we talked a little bit about how so much of one of the main things, one of the main plot devices in this film is that Harrison Ford's character of Thunderbolt Ross is like, we need to get all the adamantium.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important that it's being brought into the MCU at a larger scale. And they finally explained in the last trailer too that the Eternal that's sticking out of the ground, the what are they called? The Celestials.
Yeah.
That's sticking out of the ice that we haven't had answers to for months. That
Yeah.
they are the source of adamantium. So it's starting to all come together in the right way. We talked obviously about Anthony Mackie's role as Captain America going forward. We did get more glimpses of Danny Ramirez playing the new version of the Falcon, Joaquin Torres. So we got more on that, but it's a lot of the same stuff we did see. One of the new things we did get a glimpse at, though, was Ironheart. And this was a series that has been filmed for 3 years. The show has been wrapped for a very long time, and we haven't seen Riri Williams' character, played by Dominique Thorne, since Wakanda Forever, which was 2 years ago. So by the time this show comes out, it's going to be 3 years since we've seen the character. Another one that leaked online, I'm not sure if you saw it. If you didn't, it's all good. But it's basically covering Thorne's version of Riri Williams. She's at MIT dealing with the aftermath, and like she's so lost after Wakanda Forever, she just wants to kind of throw herself back into the fight and doing things. And she gets expelled from MIT, and she needs to find a way to get the resources she needs because she's poor to do the things she wants to do, these technological enhancements to her suits. And she meets up with a friend who is Anthony Ramos's character, the Hood in the comics, and she basically becomes this part of like this ragtag group of young adults that are kind of like doing the wrong things, like they're robbing people, and she's not on the right path. And then you eventually start to see the turn happen and things like that. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the character in the comics. Is this one that you're excited for? It was one that initially when I heard about it, I was excited, and how it was going to interconnect with the Armor Wars thing, which I've heard is like an amazing arc in the comics for Rhodey. But I think a lot of momentum has been stalled on this show, and I think it's going to suffer from it. Do you feel similar?
Yeah, totally. I thought this show was canceled completely. I thought it was over. I thought it was done with, because I remember, when Feige comes on stage and he like points and it's like, oh, this is all we have planned for this next phase of Marvel. I remember that years ago, I was in the gym and talking to a guy in the gym talking about it, of like, that, and I completely forgot about it. I thought it was completely canceled. So I'm curious. I'm a little hesitant going into this of like, why the case of now 3 years later they're finally releasing it. I'm also this might be a hot take. It's probably a hot take. I actually really enjoyed Wakanda Forever. Did not care for her character though.
Okay.
I actually thought that she was my least favorite part of Wakanda Forever. So I'm interested on if I'm gonna feel more attached to her character in this rather than in that film, but we'll see.
Yeah, and Ryan Coogler's actually an executive producer on the show, so he had a lot of the influence on the direction of her character too. And I do know that a lot of things changed when Chadwick died. Like, she screen tested with Chadwick before he passed away, so there was definitely elements of her character that were sort of shaped and retooled because of his passing, and Coogler had a direct hand in it. But like you said, I'm hesitant, and I'm not going to go into it. What I saw, it looks good. The trailer looks good to me. But it's also something where, I don't know. Alden Ehrenreich is also in the show. We don't have. I think he's playing a really important character in the comics. It might be Obadiah Stane's son from the first film.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting foil to kind of go back to the beginning and see what kind of role that he plays. But he's in the trailer for maybe a split second, so we don't get a lot on his character. Ironheart is just one of a list of shows that they have either produced or they're making at Disney Plus, and they're just fucking shoveling them down our throats.
Yeah.
A lot of other things didn't even get announced at D23 that we know are filming. Wonder Man is one of them. The White Vision show wasn't announced, even though we know that that's going to start filming soon. So a lot of stuff we still didn't know about. Ironheart we did finally get a look at. The next one, though, I think we're both probably the most psyched for out of all the announcements, all the stuff. We got the trailer for Daredevil Born Again, which is going to release on Disney Plus March of 2025. And it's interesting because months ago, we might have talked about this. I forget. I don't think on camera anyway. But this show basically filmed like half a season. And then they were like, we're going to stop production completely and retool the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
And that was troubling. And we've heard the same thing with Brave New World for Captain America. And I think the results are showing in the trailers. And maybe it was a course correction by Feige. Maybe it was a course correction by Iger. But it was something where I think they were like, listen, I understand this might cost us a little bit more money, but we need to right the ship. We need to do the right things. And Daredevil comes off of having a beloved series previously on Netflix. There were tons of rumblings for years that they were not even going to touch it. They were like, we're either not going to do Daredevil, or if we do bring Daredevil into the MCU, it's going to be an entirely different thing, because like Perlmutter had a lot to do with that, and him and Kevin Feige do not see eye to eye. So, but we get the confirmation. Charlie Cox is back as Daredevil. Vincent D'Onofrio is back as Wilson Fisk. Deborah Ann Woll is back as Karen Page. Eldon Henson is back as, I'm forgetting his, Foggy Nelson.
Yep.
And John Bernthal is returning as the Punisher. And we did get a slight reveal of the White Tiger being one of the villains. And so much of what the idea we get behind this trailer is that Daredevil and Kingpin are going to have to band together for this bigger overall force. Yeah. And it's a much grittier tone. It's a much more mature show and subject matter than all these other Marvel properties that we've seen thus far. I mean, Werewolf by Night has a little bit of that, but it's still not as violent as Daredevil is. And Moon Knight had elements of that, but it's definitely not as violent as Daredevil is. So we're both big fans of the show.
Yeah.
I've seen the first 2 seasons. You've seen the whole show. What were your thoughts on the trailer that leaked?
Yeah, so Netflix's Daredevil is, I think, in my opinion, some of the best TV I've ever seen. I think seasons 1 and 3 are incredible. I love Daredevil as a character. I love the Netflix TV show. Judging off the trailer, I'm really excited. I think that they are going down the right path. Now, it's still, then again, kind of similar to the Ironheart situation, a little hesitant because I've been following this very close to production. I actually know a few people that worked on the production, and from what I've heard from it, what it was, and then now it's changing, or they changed it and they refilmed it and they changed it into something else. I'm curious what creative direction they're kind of going towards, why they went the initial creative direction and whatnot. So I'm excited. I think that everyone in the cast from Netflix seasons 1 through 3 are just powerhouses. And I'm just like, yeah, I've already said it like 4 times now. I'm pumped.
I'm stoked for this too. I wonder if their initial, because they have a whole new showrunner too that came on to retool the show.
Yeah.
I wonder if their initial conversations of the initial shoot had a lot to do with kind of a multiversal angle, or also having Charlie Cox's character sort of interact with all these different other heroes that we've seen sprinkled in throughout the MCU. But at the end of the day, he's street level for a reason, and it has a certain tone for a certain reason. But now, according to canon, he knows She-Hulk. He knows Spider-Man. So it's going to be very curious to see if they bring those elements into the show. I kind of hope they don't. I want them to sort of stick with the Daredevil story and the Daredevil characters until maybe the finale, and then maybe we get a Spider-Man thing. The only problem with that is the Tom Holland contract, and he's only allowed to show up on screen a certain amount of times, and even like his iconography and symbolism, like if you show, even if it's not Tom Holland on set and they do like a Mando type of thing, I think contractually that still counts. Like you weren't on the Deadpool review, but I talked about how in Deadpool, when Deadpool is in, spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine if you haven't seen it, but if you haven't, you're under a rock. When Deadpool meets with Happy Hogan and it cuts to, like you can see in the background the picture of Tony and Peter's blocked, and it's because contractually if they show Tom Holland on screen, that counts as a film that he's appeared in contractually. So they had to do that much legwork, and it's a gag too, but they had to do that much legwork to kind of hold him back. And Spider-Man and Daredevil have so much connection in the comics, and now you know that he's street level based on the ending of No Way Home. So I'm curious to see, because they do have to interconnect it at some point, because so much of what these characters and these actors playing these characters symbolize is what came before, you know. And at some point, you have to have them interact, not just Daredevil. You have to have some of these other characters interact. And we had Kingpin, but Kingpin and Hawkeye is different than Kingpin and Echo. So it's hard to understand kind of where Marvel is creatively with the show. But like you, I love the characters. Daredevil as a character is awesome. Punisher, I love. I think all the portrayals by all the actors here are awesome. I'm glad they brought all of them back for this show, because initially that's not what they were going to do. And I'm excited to see what they do. And it's kind of around the corner, March 2025, and they're filming a season 2. I believe they're going to start filming in the fall. So we're already getting a season 2 of the show. We know it plays a bigger overall role. So maybe this retooled version is just going to kind of stay street level, stay away from the multiverse of it all. And I think that would probably benefit it.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I'm excited.
What else do we have? Let's see. Oh, Fantastic Four. We got the same exact stuff. We did get one glimpse of Johnny in the Fantastic Four costume. Did you see that?
I did see it, yeah.
Okay. What were your thoughts? I mean, it's kind of the same stuff we saw, but what were your thoughts on the first look and your anticipation level, obviously, for first steps?
Yeah, Fantastic Four is very rapidly becoming more and more anticipated in my book. I think seeing Joseph Quinn as Johnny in like the white and blue, I'm assuming this is I don't know. I feel like this might be, I don't know, like the chronological order of like if this is before or after like they get their powers and after they go to space. I don't know. But I like the vibe of it. I like the vibe. I like that they're sticking to this very like, we talked about it in the San Diego Comic-Con video of like they're really sticking to the 50s retro, like very comic booky, very like plasticky, I guess you could say, look, and I really like it. So.
It feels very much ripped from those comics that are so synonymous with the characters.
Yeah.
Besides like maybe the Hickman run, but it feels like it's the Jetsons. Like it feels like we're living in a Jetsons world within the MCU, which I think is so cool. And we need something fresh. And I think that's another part of the reason why we're excited for Daredevil, right? It's these two things represent different cornerstones of what the MCU should be and these stories should be. It's why Werewolf by Night did so well, because it's so different than anything else we've seen in the MCU. But I'm super excited for it, obviously. Also, it's definitely up there for my most anticipated for next year. There's a lot of stuff coming next year, but that's definitely up there as one of my most anticipated. So seeing Joseph Quinn in the outfit was great. I'm really looking forward to finally getting a look at Thing, but I know they just started filming, so we're going to have to wait a while for that, but that's quite all right. Because Marvel also gave us a bunch of other stuff to look forward to in terms of the animation division. They did discuss, and I know you're heavy on animation, as is Mark, who is producing this episode, so if you want to chime in at all, feel free. But one of the big things they talked about was how all the animators they're going to be getting from out of house. I don't know if you saw this. You guys both have a deeper animation background. What do you think that means? Do you think that's beneficial for them to sort of stick to the animators' visions rather than Marvel trying to, because Marvel animation is going to be different than Marvel Studios, which is obvious. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing how Mark, like when we talk Star Wars, like people say that Ahsoka is essentially like the live action version of Rebels, but there are differences of both series, because one is done in animation, one is in live action.
Right.
Marvel's going to do the same thing with animation. So what were your thoughts on that first comment about hiring the out of in-house animators?
Yeah, I mean, they did it with X-Men 97, and X-Men 97 is gorgeous. That was animated by Korean Studio Mir. So,
oh, that was Studio Mir?
Yeah.
They did Korra, right?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. 6 Studio.
Yeah. So it is. I think it could result in some really awesome products.
And you're cool with like, because I'm not as privy to the animation stuff, but I like seeing different versions of animation. I don't have a particular style I like more than the other. It's just cool when I get to see different types of things happening. But you're okay with seeing different versions of animation for Marvel properties?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I don't know. Like, I know they have the What If series, which What If I've actually never watched. But I know with the 3D animation, I think that's a cool route to go down to continue with, like, you know, a series of that caliber. But also, I would love to see more like stuff like X-Men 97. I know we did our reviews on X-Men 97 and it was high praise all around. I thought that was probably one of the best TV shows to come out of 2024 thus far. And I would love to see more of that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Do you have any thoughts on it?
No, I think, in animation nowadays, there's a lot of freelancers that work on these big shows. I know in anime that's very popular for them to get freelancers to come in. And yeah, I'm excited to dive into Marvel Animation because I know you guys have talked about X-Men 97 with such high praise. And I love 2D animation. I'm hoping Star Wars breaks into the 2D animation outside of Visions. But yeah, it's cool to hear.
Yeah, X-Men 97, I can't echo the sentiment more. It's probably also my favorite show of the year so far.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about it, but it's definitely up there. What If, I enjoyed season 1 a lot. I've watched a couple episodes of season 2. I've heard 2 is actually better, but I've only watched a couple episodes, and I think it's kind of the same. They did announce that season 3 is going to be the last season of What If, which I kind of felt was kind of a surprising thing because the whole point of What If is that there's unlimited stories that you can tell, unless it's becoming a budgetary concern, which I guess I can understand it because again, it's that 3D animation style, might cost more than some of these other things. There was a first look at Eyes of Wakanda, which we found out was going to be a 4-part series that Ryan Coogler is very directly working on. I do think it's cool to expand on the lore of that. We got a first look at Marvel Zombies, which is TVMA, which is very interesting that again they're going that route.
Yeah.
And then we also got a lot of news on Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which I do believe is going to be the next one to come. I think we might get What If season 3 and Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man around the same time. Spider-Man I think is going to drop in December, and that's very comic book inspired in terms of the animation. And I think some of the clips that none of this stuff was released to the public. There wasn't even leaks for this because they were probably cracking down after the Marvel Studios day. But one of the things they talked about is like it's kind of like Spider-Verse, how it's like comic inspired, where it shows like pages sort of flipping to show Spider-Man in this different sort of comic era. But the big news, which we could start with when we go into the animation talk, is we were super pumped, is Coleman Domingo joining Marvel to voice Norman Osborn in the Spider-Man series. He was heavily rumored to be replacing Jonathan Majors as Kang. He obviously had meetings, so we knew that there was a reason that this news was coming out.
Yeah.
But we're getting him as Norman Osborn. I mean, dude, I'm pumped for it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's perfect casting. He has so much range. He is an actor that I've been wanting to see more of, and seeing him not only or I guess not seeing him, but hearing him and feeling that performance soon to be in animation and in Marvel's universe, especially as Norman Osborn, that is exciting. Especially since we haven't got a Norman. I know it's animation, but like I feel like even within we haven't got. I'm sorry, I'm like stumbling on my words right now. I feel like we're so used to the live action that's coming out of the MCU. And we haven't had a Norman Osborn in a while, aside from obviously Willem Dafoe coming back for No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
So to see a fresh, like within MCU Norman Osborn in animation form, it's exciting.
I agree. Yeah. It's a beloved comic character too, like even for his villainous nature and what the Green Goblin is. And I think there's so much bravado in any performance that Domingo has. And like you said, he has so much range. Like his performance in Euphoria is remarkable to me, and I've heard Sing Sing is unbelievable. He's nominated for his first Oscar last year, so I want to see him. Like he's the type of actor that like I want to see him do like 6 roles in the MCU. I wouldn't even care about continuity. I'd be like, put him in everything. Cast him in everything. Yeah. Even him as a live action Norman Osborn, I think would be so amazing, and this could be a great trial run to see what that might look like.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. We also got confirmation that Doctor Strange is going to be in the show. And also that a symbiote comes in to this universe. And that's something that Peter's obviously going to have to deal with. You're excited for the show overall?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really curious what it's going to look like. I think that's going to be my most anticipated, what I'm most excited for. Because from what we've heard, you described how it's going to be like super comic booky, and I saw just a brief image of them talking on stage at the panel with a photo behind them, and it looks very like retro.
Yes.
So I'm very interested on how it's gonna look. Yeah.
Out of the other animated things that I've mentioned, was there anything that you're excited for in particular? I can run through them again if you wanted, but I am curious if there's anything that you, because I know you said you haven't dove into the Marvel animation stuff yet, but I mean, Wakanda, is that a universe that you're interested in learning more about the lore that Coogler's going to create, or maybe a TVMA Marvel show, or maybe Spider-Man?
I think the Spider-Man one sounds interesting. I think Spider-Man has really thrived in animation with the Spider-Verse, and I think again that old school kind of comic book esque aesthetic would be really cool. Wakanda is something that maybe it's something like I don't know I need until I see it, and then maybe I'll get excited for that. And then the zombies one, didn't they do part of What If? Wasn't there What If
Yes, there was
Zombies?
a zombies episode.
Is
It's a
this
spin-off,
it's a
essentially.
spin-off
And
of that?
it's a
Okay.
mini series, it's a spin-off, it's a TVMA sort of thing. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine was obviously a trial run because they want to start to do some of these more mature things in Marvel, which I think is needed. You know, we've had that conversation in Star Wars too. It doesn't need to be a palate cleanser for everyone all the time. We can have different stories. These galaxies and these worlds are so massive.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to Eyes of Wakanda because I've heard about this show for years. They've been working on it for a very long time, and it's a 4-episode thing. And I think that Coogler, I really respect him as a director because I know you said it's a hot take or whatever. I do like Wakanda Forever. There's a lot of elements I really like about it. There are some elements that I think make it a weaker movie, and part of it is Chadwick not being there is so tough, and it's such a noticeable gap because the first movie I think is near perfect. But Eyes of Wakanda, it's opening up this different category of diving deeper into us understanding what this world is and the implications that it may have for Marvel stories going forward. Like, I want to see other Wakandan stories in Marvel. Like, it's different how we talked about Agatha before. Like, I don't need to deal in the WandaVision verse again. I really appreciated what that show went for and what they wanted to do with it. I want to see more of Wakanda. Like, I want to see some of the other elements and some of the other tribes and what that means. And I thought Namor was such a cool and different thing that we've seen in the MCU. And it's so obvious that Coogler has such an attachment and love for that world and the comic books. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Do you feel similar to that, or Marvel Zombies, or one of the other ones that we kind of just mentioned?
Yeah, for Eyes of Wakanda, I don't know how true this is, but it was rumored that also an Iron Fist will appear.
Oh, you're right.
A version of Iron Fist, which I'm personally excited for because when growing up, I never really knew much about Iron Fist, but I always thought he was really cool. I had a big Marvel poster with every character on it, and I was like, Iron Fist is so cool. And obviously, the live action Netflix did not do Iron Fist justice. He was kind of given a little bit of justice in Defenders, but not enough. So to see a version of Iron Fist, whoever it may be, I want them to do that character justice.
Yeah,
you know,
100%. Well, that's a lot. Marvel's always got a lot of stuff cooking. We discussed pretty much everything in Marvel Animation and Marvel Studios. A lot of stuff upcoming for you guys that we'll be checking out as well. No more Marvel movies this year, but some of these series are going to be coming to Disney Plus, and we'll definitely be sure to cover them. But let us know in the comments what project are you guys most excited for, whether it's an animation form or a Disney Plus show or a movie that's coming in the next couple of years. I feel like a lot of comments are going to say Fantastic Four, and I would not blame you. Be sure to leave a like on this video if you can and comment your thoughts. Like I said, and you can subscribe to us. We are the Culture Wave Media Network. We cover all things film and television. Also, you can follow us on social media at all our platforms. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Threads, we're on Facebook. All that stuff will be listed below, and you guys can also check it out in the description. Just signing off, I am Darian Scalamoni.
And I'm Vinny Albano.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.